introduction, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. I have black denim. I have black overall hardware. And I have this patch. Plan is, I want to make an overall style pinafore. I have this skirt that I'm going to lift the pattern from. It's a little bit small because I accidentally put it in the dryer. That's a later problem. And then I'm going to fudge the rest. Oh, please, for the love of God, don't fall. Jesus Christ. Okay. First things first, the bit I actually had a frame of reference for. Starting with the skirt made this whole process significantly easier because it gave me something to build the rest of the pattern around. Not that that was intentional, but in hindsight, a good decision on my part. Basically, I laid the skirt out flat and taped along all of the seams and edges. Being careful to keep things as true to the skirt as possible. Then I peeled that off, trying to keep the tape in one piece, and laid it onto paper as flatly as possible. It's not perfect, but it gave me a solid starting point, and that was really all I needed. Then my setup with my iPad being duct taped to the ceiling was making me nervous, so I moved the whole operation to my kitchen where I could finagle something moderately less barbaric. Keeping in mind that this skirt was too small for me because of my inability to do laundry properly, I added just about an inch of width to the waist, about a quarter of an inch on all of the side seams, and then I added about an inch to the length as well, because whoever designed this thing did not have people who possess even an ounce of ass in mind. I followed the same essential principle I used for the skirt to do the bib, but more 3D on the mannequin. The skirt helped as a base, so I knew where everything would connect, and I mapped out the general shape I wanted before peeling everything off to transition to a flat pattern. Because the bib is so shaped on the body, I was going to have to put a dart in, which I did by really arbitrarily choosing a spot to cut the tape map open and laying the whole thing flat on my paper and putting the dart in the open spot in the tape. I struggled incredibly with the back straps, I am not gonna lie. This was fully just me making stuff up and hoping that it worked. I did have a pair of overalls in my closet that I made a few months ago, so those were helpful to reference. But for the most part, this was just me winging it. Speaking of the overalls in my closet, Megan, if for some reason you see this, please, come get your overalls. Done, I think. I hope. I futzed around with the sizing of the skirt a little bit more, and I think it should be a touch loose now, which is good because I still have to be able to do the buttons up on the side. And I also added seam allowance all the way around. Now I gotta cut everything out. This dress was very much a stash buster. I had everything on hand except for the hardware. That was the only thing I bought specifically for this. But all of the material for this project was from my stash or left over from various other things over the years. Which meant some of the pattern layout was less of a layout and more puzzly. The denim I used was left over from the jeans I made in January, I think it was. I can't remember. Anyway, I only had like 3/4-ish of a meter and some tails, and it was a miracle that I got everything I needed out of it. And on grain. That was genuinely a surprise to me. Anyway, this was all of the material I had left. That was it. I made the pockets out of a polyester silk sheet that was passed on to me that I would have never used for its intended purpose, so pockets it was. One of which I pretty well immediately melted to my iron. And that's just a taste of the stupidity my stupidity surrounding these pockets. So I did French pockets on the seams. I did the pockets. I did them wrong. So I had to pick apart polyester satin. With help, of course. Okay, I just got off a plane 2 days ago. Don't lay on that, please. 2 days ago, I drove to the coast with my dad, and that was a 13-hour day, so I brought some hand sewing with me. These guys are both iron-on patches, but I like to do hand stitching around the edges just to make sure that they're really on there, you know? This guy, I thought I lost. I found this thing underneath my living room rug, right smack dab in the middle, and I blame this beast. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I did, and now I can actually sew a pocket onto the front bib, and I can add the bottom of the skirt onto this. And also, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this remotely, but I did a little freehand embroidery just to pass the time. Hello, good morning, welcome to my pantry. There's some kind of carpet cleaning happening directly outside my kitchen window, and my entire apartment sounds like it's full of bees. Anyway, this buddy, I basted up the side seams just so I could try it on and get kind of like a general idea of how it's going to fit, and I'm not 100% happy with it. No one is surprised. There's some puckering happening in the bib that I don't love, so I think I'm going to try and put some little sneaky darts just in the side area, just little bitty ones, just to take things in a touch. The straps I put on wonky, so one is significantly longer than the other one, so I'm going to have to pick one off and push it back a little bit. Fun fact, I actually wound up picking the straps off 3 times. And then I think when I do the side seams for real,
I'm going to get as much of an A-line shape in there as possible, because right now the skirt kind of comes off my hips and then does this. And I don't find that very flattering on myself, and I want it to stick out just a little bit. So yeah, I have to do some seam ripping. A lot of seam ripping. And then I can keep on keeping on. I have more and different seam ripping. This particular seam ripping that is severely out of frame was to solve yet another problem that came with not making a mock-up. Basically, it was way too wide for me at the waist, so my solution was to move the side button plackets back on an angle by about ½ an inch. This has caused other problems, like weird puckering around the bottom of the pockets, but I can live with pocket puckering. An incredibly ill-fitting waist would have killed me. In a very stereotypically me move, rather than doing my buttonholes first so I could do all of the hardware at once, I did literally everything I could possibly do before dealing with my buttonholer, which in this case was sewing on the strap buckles and a very pitiful attempt at putting in the bib buttons. Just pitiful. Oh good, it's button time. This never goes poorly ever. I started out by marking out where I wanted the front of the buttonholes to be with a darning needle. And then I did some testers using all of the materials that I was going to be sewing through, just to make sure I wasn't going to have any major problems. Not that I would have had a solution if I had, but, you know. Music is far too chill and serene for the amount of frustration I was about to feel. Anyway, I started putting in the side buttons, out of frame, again. And there it is. Do you see it? You'll never guess what I did when I put these buttonholes in. That's right, I sewed over my pocket. And this is when I noticed. My first solution to this was melting the polyester out of frame, because I'm incapable of doing otherwise, apparently. This only half worked. It did stop any potential fraying, but it left a really irritating, itchy bump that I wound up covering with some bias tape. overall, I'm really happy with this. I mean, like, I'm not 100% happy with it, but I don't think I'm ever going to be 100% happy with anything I make, so I'll take it. The bib is a little big, but I didn't make a mock-up, so that's what I get. There's some weird gaping around the pockets from the alteration that I made earlier. I'm actually currently sewn into this thing to prevent that, but that's nothing that a couple skirt hooks won't fix, so hopefully that's a non-issue. But yeah, I love the patches, I love the front pocket, I think all in all, it went really well. There's some unintentional things that happened that I also really like the straps in the back with the kind of weird wingy diamond shape, I think is really cool. I think the length is really good, I really like the hardware with it. I'm just really stoked about it. I think it's great. Yeah, that's all. On to the next one.